Thank you so much, all of you, for showing up on this chilly, rainy, kind of dreary day. But I know the Senator is very excited to get here and just kind of share some thoughts about what's going on down in DC. And then also, at the conclusion of his remarks, we'll open some things up for Q&A or comments from the audience. So I'm James McNerney. I work in the Senator's Burlington office. I'm an outreach representative. We've got a couple of our other staff members here, our state director, Rebecca Ellis, and our office manager, Amy Lee. So we have a sign-in sheet in the back, but if there are any sort of particular federal issues that any of you may have, anything that our office can assist with, we've got a full team of caseworkers, and that is their job to advocate for the federal government on anyone's behalf. So if there are any particular issues that we can help with, we have a casework assistance request form in the back. Would just ask that to fill out their name and contact information. And someone from our office will be in touch with you to help get things sorted out. So I think that's in case you didn't get coffee, I know you're awake now.
All right, thank you. Hi, it's so nice. It's so nice to be here on a beautiful early.
Sorry, Kurt.
I guess mid spring day. I was out in the garden yesterday, hanging out, clearing brush. It was warm, and I got a Middlebury welcome coming over the mountain. We didn't have snow, but we did have rain. It's so good to be here. By the way, this is such a beautiful space, and I'm so grateful to the church and how welcoming it is. How, in the face of the things that are going on in Washington, especially, well, you can name a lot of things, but one of them, of course, is immigration. And I'm so grateful to the work that the church does, the people who come here to help our immigrant community who we value and you value, and give them a safe space and outreach. We got a small intimate group here, so I'm not going to talk too long, but I would really get into conversation more than questions and answers, and I look forward to hearing from each and every one of you. But the bottom line here is what we know. The verdict is in on Trump. He is, unlike any president we've ever had, he doesn't accept democratic norms. And essentially, he does two things. One, he's made the decision that instead of cooperation, it's an advantage. If you elbow your way and get some transactional advantage, then that is what he does in every aspect of his work, domestic and foreign policy. It's not a value-based approach, it's a transactional-based approach. We've not seen that in our country. Even though there are interests that have advocated, and go back to all throughout our history, everybody's advocating their point of view. But there's been a grounding that there are democratic values that we aspire to. And with Trump, those are for suckers. And it's all about whether you can get an edge in a transaction. And so that abandoning a values-based approach and adopting essentially a transactional approach is a loser for us. And it's a real repudiation of the founding documents and principle and narrative of our country, that we're all created equal, we're endowed with inalienable rights, and those are the rights of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that is always an aspiration. And I'm over here in Middlebury, where it's been my joy over the years to hear from people who challenge me about whether we as a country and I as a senator or congressperson have been living up to those ideals. But that's what we were able to share, was that aspiration, that those ideals really matter and ground us. Those have been rejected. The second thing that he's done, especially in foreign policy, is he's repudiated an alliance-based approach where America leads by cooperating and creating allies to help make us stronger, to a go-it-alone approach, which means we're just ricocheting off of one transaction in the international stage after another. And of course, you never saw that more at work than right now in the absolutely terrible war in Iran, where he repudiated Europe, basically abandoned Ukraine, and did something that has made Iran stronger by being able to resist us, where he naively believed that because we had the biggest weapons, that would be the most effective approach. And of course, we're in this world where, yes, he had the bunker buster bombs and the B-52s to drop 20,000-pound bombs on Iran, but what they had are the mosquito boats that attacked the ships in the Strait of Hormuz and closed it down, and the repercussions for Addison County farmers are being felt right now in a very, very severe way. And he did that by acting alone, acting impetuously, and without judgment. So that's what's so different about serving now with this administration. It's a repudiation, a rejection of that basic principle that has guided us, struggle as we may, to try to realize the meaning of those words. But that is what has grounded us and I think helped keep us together. So the challenge for us is to change that. And right now in Congress, I'm in a minority in the Senate. Becca's in a minority in the House, but we intend to change that. Okay? So we're going from what Vermonters have been calling for, resist the depredations of so many of the things that the Trump administration has done, to actually focusing on winning. Because we have to pull together, be united, and we have to win. We have to get a majority in the House, we have to get a majority in the Senate. So I'm just going to leave it there and open it up for questions, but I do want to say that as hard as things are right now, I feel so blessed to have this job where it's my job to represent Vermonters who make me proud every single day, who challenge me every single day, but where I'm working with colleagues that I respect and where I see the efforts of everyday Vermonters trying to cope with this incredible change in the economy and the month-to-month challenge of being able to have enough money at the end of the month to pay the bills. And a lot of folks aren't able to do that for reasons well beyond their control. They're working harder than ever. But when you see gas prices going up like they are, when you see the housing challenges that we have here, when you see the cost of child care for our young families, and I think about how hard it would be for me if I were starting out and compared to when I started. I came here, my first job, and I had a chance to work in Wall Street when I got out of law school, or K Street in Washington. I came to Bridge Street in White River Junction, made $9,000 a year. That I wanted to be a public defender. Now I couldn't do that today. My apartment then, and I had a choice of several, was $135 a month, right? So if Peter Welch were graduating from law school today and wanted to be a public defender, I'd have debt. I couldn't afford the apartment. And just I think of those challenges that people who would like to do what I did all those years ago face, and that's what our challenge is, to try to make it possible for them to have the choices where they can do public service. They can get a start. They can buy a car, a condominium. They can start a family. So we've got a lot of work to do, but I think we're up for the challenge. So let me stop there and we'll open it up for questions or anything anyone wants to say. Go ahead.
All right, folks. Oh, and we've got the microphone here, so I'll bring this around to anyone who has questions.
If you need it, yeah.
Or comments, if we need it. But just state your name.
Yeah. Hi, Ellen, and thank you for all your.
Good to see you.
Thank you for all your great work. My question is, let's hope the Democrats, retake the House, maybe even the Senate. I think you would agree that they need to get their act together so that they can keep, it's not just reversing Trump, right?
Right.
We see simple things. Every time the Democrats, number one, we need a whole new farmhouse. And
Right.
thank you for following the Leahy Act and voting against weapons to be
Right.
used for, genocide in Israel.
Right.
Thank you for being against the Iran war. But, you know, you have a Senate leader who's like, not even for the Obama nuclear deal, right?
Yeah.
So, other things, domestically, every time the Democrats retake Congress, we talk about that Social Security cap.
Right.
What is it, $180,000, and can earn $5 million and put in the same amount to Social Security?
Right.
So what is going on? Is there thought, you know, we see people like Graham Plattner and Abdul El Said and others running, but is there thought for the Democrats to unify around a more progressive agenda? Because I'm, you know, without mentioning names, Senate leadership is not where the Democrats are. And I worry that that will make it hard for them to keep a majority even if they get it.
Right,
You know,
okay.
domestically and in terms of foreign policy. And I know you're there, but I'm thinking about the group.
No, I think that's a very, very compelling question, and I think we have to really address that. Because listen, it's one thing to be against things Trump is doing, and against him and his behaviors and his disloyalty to people. And his numbers are way down. He's not popular, okay? And that actually is a major issue in a midterm election. It's really a decision by the American people where they're expressing their satisfaction, dissatisfaction with the incumbent. That happens to us, it happens to them. So that is going to be the major factor. But your point is exactly right. It's not enough that we win because people don't like Trump. We have to get to a place where people see us as being representative of them, okay? So the Democrats have an immense amount of work to do. And essentially, I think we have to get really back to our roots. And our roots are basically, we're for economic policies that make it possible for people who want to work hard to find their way into the middle class and raise a family and have some autonomous and have some independence. And what we're seeing in our economy, of course, is the massive transfer of wealth from low and middle income families to very wealthy people. Jeff Bezos in 2011 paid no taxes and qualified for the child care tax credit. Okay, and that tells you that folks who've accumulated this massive amount of wealth, and that's people who just own so much that their wealth comes not from working or not from their salary, but it comes from this massive concentration of wealth they have. That has to be challenged because it's getting tougher and tougher. Our farmers are, you know, your point, they create a lot of wealth, but they get none of the benefit of it because all their input costs go up and down. If the price goes up, then the price of fertilizer goes up. If the price they're getting paid goes up, diesel goes up. I mean, there's a lot of monopoly power that is being able to grab much more of what it has created. I'm just using farmers as an example because I'm seeing how tough it is on the farm right now. But your point is exactly right. And in foreign policy, I think we do have to have a values-based approach. We have to be for democracy, which is not to say we go and get in foreign wars, but we don't make transactions. You know, we don't support Orban because he is supporting us. But we don't give a license to Netanyahu to do things that are absolutely against our values. Where you see this massive bombing of apartment buildings because of having one Hamas person on the second floor, he wiped out 14 floors. So, you know, the roots of our commitment to working Americans and our commitment to a values-based approach, we have to stand up for that. That means we have work to do. And by the way, I think, you know, there's a lot of focus on the leader. Yeah. And when I was in the House, there was a lot of focus on Pelosi, our leader. But I find is the leaders in a legislative body are very sensitive to where the majority are. So the majority is changing within the Senate. And that'll have a real impact on what our policy is. So I think it's all of us have a responsibility to create a new vision which corresponds much more to the old vision. We're for working Americans. We're for values-based foreign policy. Thank you. Yes?
It's kind of dark. Can you get the guy behind you who's kind of dark?
I
I'm going to use it.
You traveled. You traveled.
You're worth it.
You came from Newport.
Yes.
Yeah. That's amazing.
I have a lot of topics I'd like to bring up, but the most important is a request on behalf of Newport. Canada is sending a delegation to discuss environmental issues. I'll leave it at that, not saying the quiet part out loud. If it's possible for you to attend these things, I can give the mayor's information to your staff, and then, or send a representative
Yeah.
because we don't want Canada mad at us. So if you show up, and also we have like a legislative breakfast
Right.
every other Tuesday or whatever it is, just the photo op of you showing up is like, will boost morale. Because in the Northeast Kingdom, everywhere I go, they really do feel like they've been forgotten and ignored. So as a request on behalf of rural America, if you could, like, just, hey guys.
I like that. I first of all, I'm really sensitive to that. And after Trump was insulting Canada, the 51st state, the governor, of Canada, pardon me?
The boycott against the Chinese food buffet lasted 2 weeks, and then they got over it because we were like the 51st state comment.
Right.
They boycotted the Chinese food buffet for 2 weeks, and after that they said, we're hungry. So we had jokes back and forward because the DNA of Newport and Canada is the same DNA before that invisible line happened.
Right.
So they are biological relatives living on both sides of the border.
Right.
So they were mad at us for something we didn't do for like 2 weeks.
Right.
And we're trying our best to like calm things down.
Right.
Because they do stimulate the Newport economy. And the tourism suffered in J Peak because they were mad at our commander-in-chief. So as a request to make Canada not be mad at us, I'll give the mayor's information and coordinate when they do the environmental stuff.
Yeah.
Just the optics of it will calm people down a little bit.
Yeah. First of all, I'm 100% in agreement with you. Second, we went up to Newport and we had a roundtable with people from Canada, Stansville, right? Their MP from Stansville was with us at the Newport roundtable. We did this right after. I also was part of the first Senate delegation in like 8 years to go to Canada, and we met with Prime Minister Carney. And we're all in on saying we love Canada and Canada loves us. And the point you made, which I 100% agree with, it's not just the tourism, it's not just the back and forth in commerce. There's an emotional connection we have, and you're saying it's a DNA connection. That's real. I mean, I talk to people here in Vermont where they're really upset that a lot of Canadian visitors who've always shown up at their bed and breakfast are saying, no, we're not coming. So that's really terrible, and it's all a result of reckless actions on the part of the president. These tariffs that are arbitrary and wrong. So I'm not sure what the schedule is, so we'll have to see about whether I can be there for that, but I've been there several times, and if I can be there, I will be there. If I can't be there, Rebecca, we can have somebody from the office. Thank you.
I don't have Carter's information, but the mayor will give you Carter's information. She's the head person. Working with scientists.
We can figure it out, but it's really outrageous. I mean, Canada's like, Bruce Springsteen, somebody went to a Bruce Springsteen concert recently, and I don't want to use his language, but he, the Bruce Springsteen genius, sang a song, everybody got all excited and what was about Canada, and then he just stopped and asked, what the F did Canada ever do to us? They're our friends. So, right. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jeff Byers, and I have a very, very minor role in the town Democratic Party. And one of the things that the people I talk to have kind of conversed about is other than just merely waiting for the miracle of the next election, which might also, for the first time in history, there's talk that it might not even happen. What can we, as rank and file Democrats, do? I mean, when we're here in Vermont, we're the bluest state in the country. We're not perfect in that regard, but talking about the national things is kind of like preaching to the choir.
Right.
Is there anything, can you just brainstorm things that we as rank and file Democrats can do other than donate modest amounts of money
Right.
to maybe, if nothing else, excise the sense of futility?
Right. Well, you know what, you're asking me a question that so many Vermonters ask. You know, they ask me for the same reason. They're dismayed at what's going on, and they want to change it. And they're watching what Washington is doing or what Trump is doing. And he has no respect for the law. I mean, you know, that just the latest on the East Wing Ballroom. I mean, it's astonishing that without any permission, without any consultation, he literally destroyed the East Wing, and there's a big hole in the ground. He then told us that private donations would pay for it. By the way, I have a problem with that, because those private donations are all people before government who want to get a payback in exchange for their contribution. But now they just submitted their budget last week. They want $1 billion for you to pay for it, okay, the taxpayers. So people want to know, how do I stop that? Well, the reality is, that's going to be my job and my colleagues' jobs, and you can speak out, you can speak to me. But here's what I want to say. What you do locally really, really, really matters. It really matters, and you have an effect there. Think about what this church is doing and the people who are volunteering to help immigrants here. Okay, that's not front and center on the national discussion. You're not reading about it in the New York Times. Doesn't that make a huge difference for that family, for that worker who's on his own or her own? I mean, these are the kind of things you can do. Or, you know, we're going to food shelf later. And the pressure on nutrition now, families getting access to the food they need, that is incredibly important to real people in your community. And I'm going to meet volunteers there. So it's frustrating for me, by the way. I'm a U.S. Senator, right? And I hate this war. I hate the ballroom. I'm expressing that, working with my colleagues, but I don't have the votes. We're 47 in the Senate. So that sense of frustration is one that is universal among us who are appalled at what the president is doing. But then I get hope. And just, let's go back, as bad as ICE has been, think about what those people in Minneapolis did. That was citizens. And they came out, it was freezing cold. It was incredibly cold and difficult and dangerous, right? 2 people got shot. But citizens kept coming out and putting themselves between those masked ICE agents and their neighbors. Well, what's happened? Noma's gone. ICE pulled out. The new administrator at DHS is revising their policies. So you can't see the effect of your actions necessarily right away. But number one, they have an effect. And number two, you got to do it. And you do it not because you want to be guaranteed about success. You do it because as a fellow citizen who cares about your neighbors, you know you have to act. So we've got some agency here, even if it's to do things at the local level. And don't underestimate how that ripples out around the community, around the country.
Senator, one of the issues I hear a lot of is kind of the believability of that, or what's coming out of the White House, or lack thereof. And the president has said that it's worth essentially having $6 a gallon of gas if we prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Have you seen any evidence to suggest that Iran was in fact close to developing nuclear weaponry, or is that kind of a stall?
All right, number one, let's be clear here. The Iranian regime under the Ayatollahs is brutal. I mean, they kill their own people. They mow them down. They've killed over 30,000 demonstrators. Number two, it's very bad if they get a nuclear weapon, okay? Those two things being true doesn't mean that we get in this war to achieve the goal of containing Iran from having a nuclear weapon. Give a little history here, step back. Trump opposed the JCPOA, the treaty that Obama negotiated. Patrick and me and Bernie all were in favor of that. I worked very hard on it to get that passed, because we had a lot of Democrats who were against it. And I was often over at the White House in early morning meetings with Ben Rhodes and others who were leading to try to figure out how do we get these votes and what do we have to do. That worked. There were intrusive inspections every single day monitoring what Iran was doing about enriching. Trump comes into power, he rips it up, right? And then he started enriching. And we're way worse off now. And what you're seeing with Trump is that he's looking for an out, because he's seen what has happened with the Strait of Hormuz and what implications that has politically for him. And he's going to end up probably negotiating something that is weaker than the JCPOA. That's what's going to happen. Yet, there's going to be just thousands of people killed in Lebanon. Let's not forget what's happening there. There's thousands of people killed in Iran, mostly women and children, okay? Iran has won a strategic victory, which is empowered. The old Ayatollah is gone. The new Ayatollah has replaced him. The IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard, which is more hardline, is now in place. Those are all a result of what Trump did. Talking big and acting stupid. That's what happened. So we will have to maintain vigilance about Iran and a nuclear weapon, and containment worked with us in the Soviet Union, where they had nuclear weapons. And there was enormous hostility since the Second World War. A lot to be said about apprehension of what the Soviet Union would do. But that doesn't mean war is the answer. And in this case, with Trump, the totally ineffectual way in which he proceeded has made us weaker, not stronger. So this is going to just be an ongoing issue that we have to deal with, but in a smart way. Yes, sir.
My name's Barnaby Feeder. I was the minister here for 11 years, but now I'm retired, and so I get
We owe you. We're carrying on your legacy. Your legacy is being carried on. It's really cool.
I want to ask for a little amplification of a dynamic that you put forward about the leaders in the Senate and the House being very aware of where their majority is and responsive to it. It seems to me, and I don't know how far back this goes, that actually they can be as aware of the majority as they want, but they're actually ruled by that small fringe on the wing that gives them their majority overall and keeps them in power. And that it really is people, the way the system is set up now with the gerrymandering, it's set up to actually disempower the majorities of both parties who might be willing to compromise. And so the analysis of the power of the leaders and their majority to make policy seems a little out of date given the actual political dynamics. And I'm wondering if you could square that circle for me.
Yeah, no, you have a really good point. First of all, this problem is much more extreme on the Republican side than it is on the Democratic side, all right? In that, on one element of it, and that is their power to get rid of the leader. Remember, there was this very small faction, and they got rid of Kevin McCarthy. He had the support of 95% of his caucus, but Matt Gaetz said it. Awful Matt Gaetz made a motion to have him evicted, and it was one member of the caucus could do that, and he did. And then a small faction, I think it was 12 votes or something, with the Democrats support, they got rid of the speaker. So they have a very disempowered speaker, and then they have that factionalism within the caucus. And what we're seeing over and over and over again is they can't pass legislation. So they're disempowered. That's internal. We do not have that on the Democratic side. One person couldn't stand up and bring the whole House down. But on the second part, the gerrymandering, that is toxic for our democracy. And most people on my side, our side, Democratic side, are totally against this incredible midterm gerrymandering. But we found ourselves in a situation where they did it in Texas, and what do? Right? Our democracy's at stake. So, you know, my view is we did what we had to do, and we fought back. But I do believe that we'd be much better off if we banned this kind of gerrymandering in the middle of the decennial. I favor having commissions. I don't think we should have politically oriented gerrymandering, because then you do get those situations where a minority of voters in the primary that comes from the left or the right have the final say in who goes there. What I found is the people that I have had the most success working with on both sides are people who understand they have to represent their entire district, not just a small group of them. So this gerrymandering is a very problem. It's a big problem in the court. Our Supreme Court has been terrible on many, many issues. But on democracy issues, you know, with Citizens United and a blank check for very wealthy people to write however much money they want, on literally making it legal to partisan gerrymander, and then this decision to basically eviscerate the Voting Rights Act, where in one decision they said it's okay to racial profile. You can pick people up on the basis of the color of their skin, not because they're doing anything suspicious. But on the other hand, when it comes to voting, if you want to empower people who do not have any access to the ballot box, you can't, in that case, take race into account. I mean, it's just an indication of how anti-democratic these decisions are. But I do think if we get into power, I would be absolutely in favor of having real constraints on gerrymandering.
Does that mean a constitutional convention? Does that become an important plank of the Democratic Party?
I don't think we need a constitution.
There's several things. You want a third pardon power? Okay.
I think that, where we may need a constitutional amendment is on Citizens United and the money in politics, because that was, the court made that decision, as you guys know, saying it was a constitutional right, First Amendment right of billionaires to spend whatever they want. That's essentially what they said, and that's toxic for a democracy. I'll get these numbers wrong, but the point will be right. When I ran for the House in 2006, the wealthiest, 40 American families contributed $10 or $20 million to all the races around the country. Now it's in the billions. Okay, so they just squeeze out the voices of the many. So we may need a constitutional amendment. But on some of these other things, like the corruption, like the gerrymandering, that is something where we have the power to act legislatively, and it's important that we do. People hate this stuff. And, there's a lot of folks who voted for Trump that are really good people. Okay? They're looking, they looked at what, they were critical of some of the things we were doing, rightly so, but they also were struggling with the same things that people who didn't vote for Trump are voting for. They're worried about their kids, they're worried about paying the bills. We've got to understand that and reach out.
Hi, Senator. Thanks for being here today. My name is Archie. I live in Bridgeport, which is a town over. I hope it's okay to have a more, I appreciate the conversation on kind of broader topics, but one thing I'm curious about, the Vermont delegation has been really successful at securing a lot of appropriations, congressionally directed spending. I flew out of the Burlington Airport recently and saw the new terminal. And I guess I'm curious if you have anything in Addison County that you're excited to work on, and I guess more broadly, how do you see a long-term strategy of investing in this area? With, year after year, one of the things that does pass is the appropriations vote usually. So I guess I'm just curious about that, and then there are things like the Virgin's 22A bypass route, lots of things that could be a great.
Well,
this one. So
I succeeded a guy named Patrick J. Lake at the International Airport.
Yeah.
And his first campaign was the first political campaign I worked on when I came to Vermont. So Patrick and I have known each other forever, and of course he became chair of the Appropriations Committee, and that didn't hurt. I believe in the congressionally directed spend, all right? It's public, so everything that is considered is public, it's on the level. And if I support a project, I have to put my name on it. You get to then evaluate, Peter, what's going on here, and I have to be accountable to you and answer questions. So it's not a bridge to nowhere situation. And it's a big part of our office project. People from around Vermont, it's usually organizations, will submit a project that they think that would be helpful to their community. And it could be everything from a food shelf to the bypass around. We were involved in this housing project right here. And how much did we help on that, Rebecca? Several million.
Yeah, several million, I forget.
Yeah, and it's the housing project here in Middlebury. So this is a big part of our work, is to consider the ideas put forward, and they are generated by local people. This is why I trust them. So there's an immense amount of buy-in locally, and oftentimes with some of their own financial commitment. So it gives me some security that this is for real. It's not just a pie-in-the-sky idea that somebody has. So Bernie and I actually cooperate as much as we can, because we sometimes get different proposals and sometimes we get the same. And we'll work together on things where the two of us, well, I'll give an example. We got money for a dental college in Burlington. It's going to have 48 chairs, and it's going to be available. These are for to train dentists. And we have an enormous shortage. This is something that's been a real concern to Bernie, and me too, but he really has been a leader on this. But we combined, and we got several $1 million to get this up and running. It's going to be opening very soon. So we support them as long as they're public, they're generated by the community, and they have a public benefit, not a private benefit. Thanks.
Hi, Senator Welch. Thanks for being here today. My name is Emmett. I live in Lincoln. I think a lot of us here, I'm 40, so I watched the sort of uncontrolled experiment of social media as it sort of unfolded across, society and all the fallout from that. And I kind of feel like I'm in Groundhog Day with the AI revolution. And I don't see a lot of ideas coming from leadership. Republicans seem like they've completely thrown in the towel or, accepted the money and are going to just see what happens. And I feel like this is one of those things that the federal government is kind of the only institution with the power to mitigate the effects that a sort of uncontrolled adoption of AI is going to have.
Right.
And I think it's all the same players, all the same people that led the social media experiments. I see no reason to believe these companies when they say that the technology is sort of, beneficial at its core. So I'm wondering, what you or other Democratic leadership have in mind, because it feels like a pretty deafening silence right now.
Well, thank you for that. First of all, I think there is enormous consequence to what's going to happen with AI, both economic, security, and social, and we don't know. I mean, this is going at the speed of AI, and each iteration is coming on faster and faster with more powerful tools. And there is no regulation on it right now. So to entrust the future to a group of billionaires, and that's essentially what we're talking about, where they actually control the technology and where they're going to profit by it immensely, and to empower them to be making the decisions about how this will affect our society is wrong. Okay, and I saw even Trump said just yesterday, I think, that the government should review these AI applications before they're put out into the public. I actually agree with him. I think there has to be an active role by your government on behalf of protecting public interest issues. So that's, I think, what we do have to do. By the way, Bernie's talking a lot about this as well, and having some AR conversations. But we have to do what you're saying. There has to be a public element here to protect the public interest. And it's both on how does this affect jobs, and does it affect jobs in ways where we have to address training, we have to address the social safety net, we have to address community dislocation. How does it affect the security? And it really can affect security. You know, right now, there's an enormous amount of intergovernmental hacking in private hacking. And there's a lot of apprehension about what could happen to our power systems, our infrastructure, our water systems. Well, when we talked about asymmetric warfare earlier, you know, we have the bunker buster bombs, but the Iranians have the mosquito fleet, and speedboats that can close the Strait of Hormuz in its maximum pressure. You can get a couple of hackers with AI who actually can shut down our power plants. That's a possibility. So there has to be a governmental role here. So the point I'm making is that the point you're making, there has to be a role, a public interest role is absolutely certain, and there isn't one right now. So count me in as someone knows who is going to be assertive that it's got to be a place for us to protect public interest.
All right, I think we've got time for maybe one more question. I want to make sure we get to right here.
Senator, thank you for all your years in public service, and I personally agree with all of the points that have been made that you have answered. I'm here not just because of my personal interest and support, but also I'm a Middlebury Select Board member, and among the congressionally designated spending requests are ones to our delegation and you for help with our wastewater treatment facility. The town stretched and voted with amazingly in last year to support something we needed to do as a town, a $50 million improvement to our wastewater treatment facility that will be designed to be able to service the region, handle Virgin's sludge as well as ours, and the septic trump out for the whole county. 50 million is a huge thing for a small community like Middlebury. And in the past, Senator Leahy was able to, 25 years ago, help us fund the facility we have, but it now needs an upgrade. And so I'm in awe and all the things that you have facing you, these challenges that have been spoken of earlier. But the importance of the assistance to communities with big infrastructure needs that they really can't afford to do by themselves still exists. And there needs to be a Project 2028 to counter the gutting of all of the support for all kinds of things, but including the support to communities. So thank you for all your efforts and support in that and doing what you can do in the face of overwhelming other issues.
Thank you for that. But, you know, there is a priority issue here. And what you're talking about here in Middlebury, or Virgins, or Bristol, or Shoreham, or Bridport, I mean, this is all over the nation. And we haven't even begun to talk about the state of repair of our schools. You know, in Vermont, way behind in the upgrades of our schools and modernizing our schools. And my view is that the federal government does have to play a role. And, you know, when I go back to DC, the administration is going to come in to us and they're going to ask us for $200 billion to pay for this Iran war. That's real money. They're going to ask that we increase the $1 trillion defense budget in a single year by $500 billion. You think how stupid that is. You can't, you know, if you raise your budget 50%, it'd be hard to figure out how to spend it effectively, get it done. You know, you have to, and also that's like to continue this policy where we built $1 million interceptors to take down $35,000 drones. I mean, You know, we can't do that. And also, this is really important with respect to China, which is always mentioned as our adversary, and it is to some extent. The biggest thing we can do to be strong versus China is to get our own house in order. You know, it's like to support immigration legally, but the talent that brings with it is to support scientific research in our universities and not to cut. Is to take on the responsibility to better our own society, not just use an adversary as a foil to avoid responsibility. And $500 billion is going into the defense budget, which hasn't even been thought out with the lessons that we're learning about modern warfare, and where we think that more incredibly expensive interceptors are going to be able to deal with a swarm of drones. So, my view, you know, if you really want to talk Trump terms, America first. It's our schools, it's our water treatment facilities, it's our scientific research, it's our people, it's our openness to people who can help us be a better country. So, and that goes back to your question to some extent. We're the Democrats. We've got to present that as an aspirational objective. You know, what I find with myself, and I find with Vermonters, when times are really, really tough, you know, times are really tough, but you get up and you face today. And you're willing to do it, not because you don't have an expectation that things be easy, but you do have an expectation if you put effort into it, then you'll be a half a step ahead at the end of the day, not 2 steps back, okay? And that's where there's got to be a shared sense of purpose and a shared vision of how we can go. So we can deal with hard, but to deal with hard, we have to believe we're pulling in the same direction to get to where we need to be. And that's missing. You know, if you're in a world where basically you can elbow somebody out of the way to get a step ahead, that's not the way we do it. We find a way to do it together. So it's so good to be here in Middlebury. And I just love this facility. I love what this church stands for and all the work you've been doing. And my goodness, what a legacy for you, and the pride you must have to have been the pastor here for so long.
It's a great congregation.
Yeah.
All you have to do is not get in my way.
Well, it's a good goal for people like being burned, you know? Thank you. Thank you very much.